Greetings to you today. God bless you this Lord's Day. I want to say something about mythology because I get into discussions online with different people, and sometimes because my posts will be Christian, obviously, in nature, and I will make some statement pertaining to God or to deity or something along that line. Invariably, someone will pop up and say something like this: I don't believe in mythology, blah, blah, blah. It's interesting how they label that belief in God mythology, and the whole Christian perspective on life and the worldview that the church has held for 2,000 years and beyond. That's all just fabrication, folklore, and folk stories and legend. What is mythology? Mythology is the study of usually ancient stories and beliefs attached typically to a particular culture and religious framework. And so we study these ancient stories. But we know that when people throw that, for example, at me, it's oftentimes used in a pejorative sense, using it, again, really as more of a denunciation and saying, in effect, you're so stupid, you're so foolish to believe those silly old stories of the past. And sometimes I'll let that go, and sometimes I'll respond right or wrong. And I will say something like this, and this is for anyone who might be tempted to fall into that camp. Is it mythology to believe in a creator God who has fashioned all things and who sustains all things, and who, as we see in the Bible, sent his one and unique Son to come and saved depraved humanity? Is that mythology, or is it mythology to believe, as the hardcore materialist does, that all things came from nothing? That something came from nothing. Now think about that. That something, really everything, came from nothing. That life itself, as we see all around us, from the little gnats flying around, the birds going across the sky, the human beings with all their complexity, that all of that came from non-life. That consciousness, the ability to perceive and be aware of one's surroundings, to wake up in the morning and to be alert and awake and perceiving of the external world around, that came from non-consciousness. That the DNA molecule, with its over 3 billion pairs, perfectly ordered, in perfect sequence, in order to make life as we know it, that came about with all its immense and unfathomable complexity by accidental, purposeless processes. That there is no real basis for morality. That right is only right to me in my mind, and that really ethics are all entirely subjective and situational, as we've been told for decades now. My truth is your truth, my right is my right, and your right is your right, and so on and so forth. That beauty, as we see it, in a sense, is ultimately an illusion. It's just the arrangement of molecules and brain activities that strike a sense of pleasantness to my mind, and I consider that to be beautiful. That beauty and art really have no foundational core. That a mumbled, jumbled mess is no different, ultimately, than a Beethoven symphony. That a human being is really of no essential value. There's no real final difference between a human being and a cat, or a bacterial organism. All these things that we just assume and seem to be perfectly content working with, these vestiges of Christianity, these are all just that. They're just vestiges of a bygone belief system. I ask the question, now who is really dealing with mythology?